Well, here we are at the Valiant Air Command, getting ready to go on our flight on the Ticobelle C47 that flew in the invasion of Normandy. And here's my boarding pass, and here is the airplane that we'll be going on. So we've got to go through a little bit of orientation, and they're going to get us ready to go pretty soon.
Former Airlines, Karen Sylvester, former TWA, and Rick Osborne, and he was Eastern and
World Airways.
What else? World Airways. So we have a highly experienced crew, and they're still younger than the airport.
Yes, fortunately.
The C47 had its 70th birthday year last year. And, I'm sorry, Jim Owens is our flight engineer and roadmaster. We fly it with a crew of 4 normally. For air shows, it's down to 3. We don't carry a flight attendant. And, this airplane was built in October of 1942. Went over to England in 44 in January, flew across the northern route. It then flew in all the practices prior to the Normandy invasion. Did that in June 6, 1944. Towed a glider, dropped paratroopers, and then flew in all the major battles till the end of World War II. In addition, later on, it was one of the first participants in the Berlin airlift. It was hauling coal and potatoes. We even found coal dust in the belly of the airplane when we were pulling up oxygen tanks. We no longer I'll pass around a rough idea of where the flight path will be going. We're fortunate enough, and NASA cooperates, we'll be able to fly right down the shuttle runway. Sure. You'll notice on there that the shuttle runway is in the top center, and then I've noted out some other points there where the vertical assembly building where the Saturn V's were put together, along with the spacecraft lunar module for the Apollo program that went to the moon, and also where the space shuttle was built up. And then below that, LC-39, Launch Complex 39B and 39A, those were the 2 that were used in both the Apollo program and then later on in the shuttle program. Our C-47 did suffer a few combat hits, and they've been repaired. They were, in some places you could find patches, but it's been through several sets of engines and propellers, but it's basically the same airplane. The major difference in this one, it's got a few creature comforts, because the last duty was with the Royal Danish Air Force, and it was the backup airplane for the King and Queen of Denmark. They used it, and we found out also that the prime thing from a fellow who was a purser on the airplane we met at Oshkosh. We had the airplane up there in 2010. His prime duty was to make sure there was plenty of and the King's favorite beer on board. Anyway, the seats are not the standard seats. They're first-class seats out of a DC-6B. Of course, they've been redone. The airplane has a lot more insulation than the standard C47. So it's a little quieter on the inside, but it's still the same old workhorse. And I hope that you'll enjoy your flight. But just think about the days of June 6th. Somewhere in old dark 30, they loaded up those 18 to 21-year-olds with anywhere from 60 to 100 plus pounds on their backs, or they'll be hanging from their legs as they go out. They're taking off in the middle of the night, and it would take up to about 3 hours to form up a formation of 800 plus C-47. It's only about 20 minutes from England to France, and to some of the drop zones. But they had to sit there, and while they're droning around and getting linked up, first they gather in a wing, which is 16 to 18, I'm sorry, a squadron 16 to 18, and then a wing, which could be as many as 3 or 4 squadrons, and then finally to the whole armada. This airplane was number 50 in the stream flying over it. So it took fewer hits than some of the later ones, because the German gunners were all awake by the time the first couple of hundred passed by.
Pull yours over so you're floating.
We were very grateful to get the airplane. We had 3 of them. We got them from the Department of Defense when the Lend-Lease program was finished, and the Danes substituted C-130. We had put them in for 3 of them as a non-profit military aviation museum. And about 6 months after we did that, they said, good news, bad news. You've got the 3 you asked for, however, they're in Verloos, Denmark. And so we had to go pick them up from Denmark and fly them back. That took us about another year and a half to get them all back. After flying the 3 of them for about 4 or 5 years, we had to sell 2 of them to help build this facility. However, we kept the best one. So I hope you'll think about those young men jumping out of that airplane in the middle of the night, what they went through to secure the beachheads and carry the war to the Germans and ultimately win the war for us. Questions? We have any retired militaries with us? Let's see here. This gentleman, you're World War II? I'm sure you probably flew in C-47. Sometimes. Yes. Well, we got softer seats. They used to be fold-down seats that were very minimal and lightweight, so they could flip them up and fill it up with cargo or whatever the airplane would haul. Yes, sir.
In 1998, I was in Beijing, China, and I was there working for an American company, and I got the opportunity to go to a Chinese SAC base, actually. They had a C-47 there that Chairman Mao had. Where they got that C-47, I don't know. They had C-47.
You know, in the early days, before we got into the war, the Flying Tigers were in, and they used C-47s a couple times as bombers.
That's how they got it.
Now, I'm sure there was some left there, but they came up with the innovative idea of tying a string long enough to arm the bomb once it was about 20 foot out of the airplane. And they had their crew in the back with a doorkeeper door open, and they're kicking out these bombs with a string attached to them. So, you know, that's what happened. Yeah, but that's the other thing I meant to mention. They made about 10,000 C47s. There's about 800 DC-3s that were made from 1935 on up to the war. But the Japanese actually had a license from Douglas before World War II to build them, so they built about 2,000.
Wow.
The Russians, in the typical thing, they got a hold of one and they built about 3,000 without any license for Douglas.
So instead of doing that,
As they did with B-29.
The one I saw in China could have really been a Russian one.
Could have been a Russian made, yes, or someone that was left over or confiscated.
From the
oh, so
Black
you
Tiger.
were facing
Right.
parking this way?
They flew them up for quite a while after the war, so you can't tell where it would have come from.
I thought it was very strange to see that plane there.
The EAA estimates that there's between 175 to 200 DC-3 C-47 still active flying. There's a lot more of them in museums around the world, but that's probably our population for the U.S. There's still a lot of them in South America and third-level countries where they do the job that only a DC-3 could do as far as hauling a good-sized load, getting in and out of small fields.
Oh, so there's parking.
That's about it. We did have one little difficulty. Our strut came down sometimes because of that cool weather. We're having to pump it up with nitrogen. So we're probably going to have a second flight. So I know all of you have probably signed up for the first flight. You can go out and take a look through anything else. And any other questions on the crew?
Like I said, after I get here, when I need
We're
that,
going
then
to
I'll
tell you
find
what you can load.
And hopefully they're going to be able to also
There'll be a little photo thing afterwards.
Space shuttle
I think our
landed on
photographer is over that spring ankle.
to fly over. You wouldn't be able to see.
Yes, sir. To send volunteers.
that's what, I've seen them work their best in the past.
I don't believe so, no, I think they've given them all up. The last usage was as a navigation calibration aircraft. They replaced those with these have King Airs and some other more modern airplanes.
RVs are gonna go on the back of that.
Well, I take that back. They've got the one that they use, they take the air shows. It still belongs to the FAA as a representative model of the navigation check aircraft. And they still fly around. Last, I think they're still flying that one.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
send this discretion.
So that might be the only one that the FAA still has.
Fix them.
Any other questions?
Cadets only do so much.
Okay, once you are in the air and you see the light go off before they fasten seatbelts, you can, one at a time, when the flight engineer, when Jim Owens comes back, walk up to take a look out the front, see what a cockpit looks like, and then return to your seat. And we will try and, if it's permissible, fly by the shuttle runway. Take, see what, it goes on forever. It's 3 miles long with 1,000-foot overruns. So.
What altitude are we going to fly at?
You'll be flying 1,000 to 1,200 feet, but when you go down the runway, they allow us to come down to 150 feet. So you'll get a good idea. You'll see the shuttle making range facility on the east side of the runway. There's a hangar there. They're still using it for some active aircraft, doing some instrumentation testing. One of our members has several F-104s.
Yeah, one guy taking up 3 spots.
More than Mach 1 tests.
They had their trailer on the
Their
cars,
instrumentation
so
system.
not only didn't have their space, they needed to pack the car.
The 104, one of the 104s will be here in our air show, so be sure to come back and see the air show.
Then they can back out right there.
Anything else? Bill, you want to make any other comments? Or?
All set. And that's when the cadets on the west side.
Okay.
Motorcycles.
We can amble out to the airplane. Hopefully we've got the strut bumped up.
If there's anybody here that I have not signed up, I have my
So, together, we're going up for